Welcome to Let's Talk Learning Disabilities with Laurie Peterson and Abby Weinstein. Laurie and Abby spend their days talking about dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and ADHD. They talk to parents of struggling students and adults who have had a lifetime of academic challenges. They want to share those stories along with their own insights with you. So, let's talk learning disabilities.
Hey everybody, this is Laurie.
And this is Abby.
Welcome to Let's Talk Learning Disabilities.
We are bringing you another episode in our 12-part series called Turning Struggles into Triumphs, Parenting Through Learning Challenges.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's interview. Have a great day.
Okay, so today I am talking to Heather. Her daughter Cambri's in 5th grade. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
So I think if you could start with some of the things you saw back in the very beginning when you first noticed she was struggling.
Actually, it was in pre-K. Like, her 3-year-old teacher was concerned because she was transferring the pencil from one side to the other, going across the paper instead of moving her hand across the paper.
Oh, that's interesting.
She would start, with one hand and finish with the other. And then in her 4-year-old class, they were saying she didn't know her letters, and I was like, yes, she does. And she proceeded to tell me that she was just trying to trick her teachers. So that was like fiery, like right there. Okay, like I'm dealing with a totally different type of child than my first one. But then even in kindergarten, to talk to her verbally, she's very intelligent. And she just picks up on things really easily. But when it came to her learning her sight words, it was like am and my, and she would always see am and she'd be like, it's my. And I was like, no, like just because it has an M in it doesn't mean that that's what it is. And it was like that for, try. She would say it was you or yes. So immediately I was like, okay, like why is she like always tracking, to the end of the word? I know that's not just all dyslexia, but I immediately knew like these are easy words for her for what she knows. So I knew something was wrong in kindergarten.
And so what happened? Did you try to get the school to help? Did you?
So I did. So, it was like September, October, and I'm teaching 6th grade honors math. She's in kindergarten and we're crying over homework. So I knew like something's off. So I reached out to her teacher. She said, oh, like they'll do a dyslexia screener in kindergarten. And I'm like, okay, like I want it done now. No, like everybody's going to get it done in kindergarten. So I waited until kindergarten. And of course she was flagged on the screener. Then 1st grade came. What
does that mean when they flag her on the screener? So what do? Do they give her a little extra help or?
No, right? That would make sense, right? No, that just means that they're going to watch her for the next year and do like kind of interventions to see like, is she just behind or is there really something bigger going on? So we were going through that with 1st grade. I'm frustrated with the school because I know something's wrong with my daughter. But like I'm a teacher in your district and I'm telling you, that was really frustrating for me with that district. But then COVID came and I just stayed in contact with everyone and made sure that if we got to go back to school in August, she was one of the first ones tested because I have been on them since kindergarten. And they actually tested her like late July before we went back in August. So she could start 2nd grade with her 504 plan.
Okay, so they tested her. They diagnosed her with dyslexia. Mm-hmm. So then she also started in dyslexia therapy.
Yes, she did.
How did that go for her? Did she enjoy that?
She loved dyslexia. Her confidence it was crazy, the confidence that came from her from just being in 1 year of dyslexia. And then, that 2nd year, it changed her whole perception of school. She wanted to go to school. She decided that she did like to read because, when we think of reading, it's normally like, you're looking at words. But, we've talked to her, like even you're reading, like if you're listening to a book that's audio, like it's the same thing as reading. Somebody's just telling you a story. If you're looking at words, somebody's telling you a story. She's been a lot of coaching on us. Teaching her you're not different, like it's a learning difference. And I think just me explaining, as teachers, we're taught to teach to majority of the way the class learns. And she's lucky because she's not a majority. And so trying to spend that with her, like, you're just not a majority. That's all you
Right.
are. You're not different. You're just not a majority. It has really helped her, I think.
Do you feel like, when did you see her reading start to kind of turn the corner after she started that program? Was it, by the end of the school year? Was it into the next year? Or?
Yeah, well into the next year. It was probably mid third grade year.
Okay.
Before I saw that she was asking for books. She was asking for Epic at home, Learning Ally at home. So she was asking if she could do things. Then, she was turning on Alexa at night for bedtime stories, and she had already developed all of these coping skills on her iPad phone anyway, voice to text on the remote. She does voice to, find her channel. And so she had already developed a lot of coping skills on her own.
And now she's in 5th grade. So how do you feel like her reading is?
I would never know.
Really?
I don't feel like that. I would know that she was dyslexic if she was reading. She struggles most with reading on her own, and just being confident that that's actually what it says. So right now, she has accommodations for audio, for testing assignments, and it's just upon request. Whenever she
And is
wants.
she good about requesting them?
She is.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And
So she's also been diagnosed with ADHD since the dyslexia, right?
Yes. So once she was diagnosed with dyslexia, I, of course, wanted to do more research. So I started reading that Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz. And I did not realize, even with all my teacher training, how closely dyslexia and ADHD are connected in the brain. And what I saw was just the more frustrations that I saw with her at home was more ADHD, more executive function, organization. And so, we've worked with that, like list, baskets, everything at home. We're still struggling with that part, though.
And do you have some of her accommodations? Are they in place for ADHD as well? Or do you feel like they're mostly just covering dyslexia?
No. So actually, one of the accommodations I added to her plan this year was that she could only have 10 minutes of homework in each subject every night, because she was coming home with homework sheets and papers she had not finished in class. And so, I'm doing an hour worth of homework with someone who has no more ADHD medicine in their system. She's already had to work twice as hard as everybody else at school, and she's ADHD. She just wants to go outside and play. Right. And I'm crying doing homework with her. My husband says, I've already done Christopher Columbus. You do science with her. And, and I, as a teacher, I just feel like homework's not that important for her to have to do at home. And I just want to do what she feels comfortable doing. And I feel like 10 minutes for each subject, that's almost an hour of homework that she would do, 40 minutes, that's plenty.
Can you speak to the difference? So we have, obviously we see tons of kids with ADHD, and we have a lot of parents that medication freaks them out, and it should, right? It's a big step. Can you speak to the difference in what you see on and off medication?
Yeah, so I was always kind of like, okay, medication. And then I had a teaching partner who was ADD, and she did not get on medication until she was in high school. And she told every parent that had ADHD or that we were kind of questioning, I wish my parents would have put me on it a long time ago. I would have felt so much better about myself and more successful. And since I heard her tell parents that, I have been pro that. With medication, at first she didn't want to take it. It made her feel funny. And then we talked about, it's just filling in areas of your brain that are kind of not the normal that you need for school. So she takes it Monday through Friday, and then she has an option for a midday pill on Friday. We don't give it to her on the weekends. She feels more confident at school. She says that the way that she explained it to me is that when she's on her medication, whenever she's looking at her science paper and her mind starts to wander off to her cheer routine or her volleyball game, that she can stop it and come back. And when she doesn't have her medication, she'll go through her whole cheer routine. And then she's thinking about like the next cheer routine that she wants to make up. And then it just snowballs of these random thoughts.
She's really self-aware though to notice that.
It's been a lot of coaching her, a lot of studying for me, to learn how to help her best. And I still don't feel like I have found a system that still has her where she needs to be.
As a teacher, has it made you look at your kids a little bit differently as far as the kids that you teach? Are you quicker to pick out the kids that you're like, I think there may be something going on, I'm going to advocate for this child to get help?
Yes. Every day I tell her she's made me such a better teacher because I get it from her point of view. And I never would have. So I love to do, I do math workshops. So we do rotation stations, and we do centers, and we do teacher table, and they're moving around. And I like to give, answer all these questions, and then it transfers to a color sheet as your reward. And my daughter brought one of those home, and I was like, this is my favorite type of homework. Don't you love it? And she was like, no, these are the worst kinds of papers because it's so confusing. It's so much in my brain, going from one paper to another. And I had a meltdown because I thought, I've been giving these to my own students for so long, thinking that it was good for them. They got a little reward. And here is my daughter, who I thought would enjoy these assignments the most, hates them because it's too overwhelming for her. Oh. And, I'm seeing that in my rotations. So I'm like, I have students who just want, can I just have a paper, just a worksheet? We're so trained in making it interactive for all of them, when I feel like maybe we're really hurting the ADHD kids because they're already active. Their brains just need to sit and be still.
I love that because we do. Well, we do. We think we need to give them multisensory and manipulatives, and we want to give them all of this almost over-sensory stuff, right? When really they just can I just show you that I know it and be done? Yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely has changed. I've already made my change in this class this year to give them options. So you can do rotation stations and do these assignments, or here are the worksheets that are equivalent to the questions that I'm asking in rotations, and I just staple them together, and when they finish one, they turn it in.
And do you have a lot of kids take you up on that?
I probably have more kids do that than the rotation stations, and I am shocked. It's so shocking.
That's interesting.
It is.
That's good research.
Of collecting data. I am 2 years away from having my doctorate in educational technology, but now I'm like, I want to do so much research on that, on that part. What's the change? Are they too overstimulated maybe with their iPads and all of that? It's too overstimulating maybe. And they just need the simplicity
of a
worksheet.
old-fashioned worksheet. Yeah.
And that's totally against me. But
right. I
have to do what's best.
What kind of assistive technology, speaking of, has Cambri benefited from as far as with her dyslexia and even with her ADHD?
Yeah, so she had an iPad from when she was 2, mostly just because her older brother had one. But very quickly, we noticed that she figured out how to use the microphone on YouTube Kids. And so she was saying Smelly Belly, My Little Pony, for things that she wanted to watch. And that made it easier for me. So I'm like, great, but it was really just her developing a coping skill. When she texts with her friends, she usually does voice to text. Checklists. There's checklists where you can slide it off. That's been beneficial if she can remember to charge her electronics. That's one of the things with ADHD, that executive function organization. And so, but the technology has been amazing for her. She has a laptop too, and there's, Chrome extensions, dyslexia Chrome extensions that you can add. And so I've put those on there and showed her how to turn them on and off. And
that's awesome. And she does a good job of advocating for herself, like you said, in class when she needs to use those.
Yeah, I had a student at one point that was diagnosed late, end of 4th grade, 5th grade, and I've always taught middle school. So she was coming to me in 6th grade, just starting dyslexia. And so she was a real advocate for herself. And even at the end of that year, I think in 7th grade was when the girl was in 7th grade when my daughter was diagnosed at the end of 1st grade. And I actually wrote her a letter just to let her know, like, I know my daughter's going to be okay because I saw you advocate for yourself. And that's what I want my daughter to do. And so just from this one student modeling, you know, what she needed in the classroom, that's what I want my daughter to do.
So really quick on a side note, that we did work with a company, and I need to look and see what ages, but it was mentors. So they had older students, some high school, some college, that would mentor younger kids in that same fashion. And I think that, to me, speaks volumes to see somebody else with the same struggles you have being successful, right? And well, they're okay asking for this kind of stuff, so you know, they start to idolize them a little bit.
Yeah, and that's kind of, you know, like just in my classroom, like I am very open with my students. Look, I know you struggle with ADHD. Like everybody, like my daughter has it, you know, like I get if you're out of medicine. I get if you're hungry and you need a snack because of your medication. Like just ask me, you know, like if you need to take a break, like just ask for a break. You know, and it's kind of like, yes, like those are accommodations for ADHD kids, but actually everybody could benefit from those. And so maybe we should just like loosen our grip in the classroom a little bit in some ways.
You know, I always say that when I present an accommodation, you know, recommendation list, a lot of these are just really good teaching strategies that every teacher should be doing for everybody. Because I was in the classroom. It's very hard to meet the needs of every single learner. But like you said, I mean, there are some things just with common sense and seeing a child struggle that you would just put in place just because you know they need it.
And I think it's important too, you know, most kids that have accommodations, they have preferential seating, but that might be different for every kid. Like some kids may want to sit right next to the teacher. And like my kid, she wants to sit at the back of the room. So if she needs to get up or bounce around, like she's not distracting other people. You know, in some classes, she wants to sit at the very front so she can't see what's going on, you know, and so I think it changes for maybe even what they're learning, if they're interested in, you know, just making those adjustments and making sure that the kids know that they have the ability to do that. I think it, like, you know, they hear, oh, like I have a 504 plan, but do they really know what's on it, what it's for? I
Probably
think
not.
it's important to explain it to them and let them have
I always tell parents that preferential seating does, you know, we always assume that just means sitting in the very front. But for a lot of kids, that creates a lot of anxiety. Like I need to fidget and all the people behind me are watching me fidget.
Yeah, exactly.
So sitting in the back or off to the side is really preferential to them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, let them have choice of, you know, like, do you want to work by yourself today? Do you want to work with partners? And a lot of the ADHD kids want to work alone, too. I feel like
and I think you'll get a lot more out of them if you give them a say.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's the thing. Like, they'll do more if they feel like they have a say in it.
Right.
It's just hard.
And, you know, like, that's how life is. They were asking today, I was like, you guys aren't giving me feedback. You know, I need feedback. Like, what do you need to understand this concept? Like, you still don't have it. Like, what else can I do for you? Do you need a video? Like, we need to play another game? You know, do we need just a worksheet? And they were just kind of like sitting there. And I was like, you guys, like, you have to tell me what you need. I think they're just so used to just sitting there being told what to do. And, you know, I told them, I was like, okay, like at school, somebody else manages your time. At home, you and your parents can manage your time. But when you're at school, like, come to school, like work. You have to work. Well, can we, you know, like if we get all of this done, like if we complete everything, can we get like a Jolly Rancher? And I'm like, you want to be rewarded for just doing the bare minimum? Like, I don't get a Jolly Rancher for just showing up to work. You know, so.
It's a tough lesson.
That's my 7th period class. That is probably maybe 6 out of the 15 have ADHD.
Oh, and they have math last period.
No, that's second to last period.
Wow.
It's a struggle.
That's the other thing too, I wish, and I don't know how easy that is when kids start getting into middle and high school, is to have more of their core classes in the morning, because those classes at the end of the day are shot. They're good. They're done. Even with medication, it's wearing off. Yeah, my stepdaughter has physics last period and she's dying.
Yes. It's really hard for them, I think, you know, too. And It's hard for me. I'm actually going to the doctor tomorrow because I left my car running the other day, and I'm like, maybe I have ADHD. Like, can you get that as like an adult? I hear people
Absolutely.
doing it, but like, what does it really look like? I'm just anxious to see what happens tomorrow.
You absolutely can be diagnosed because you've developed coping strategies, right?
Yeah,
and then
probably.
also, don't know how old you are, not going to pretend to even guess, but as your hormones start to change.
Yeah, and that's
Gets worse.
One of the things regulating kids in middle school is they're like, around 5th grade, like 5th to 8th grade, their hormones change, they have growth spurts, and getting their medicine regulated it can be like an all year ordeal. And then the next
It's a challenge.
year they changed again, so.
And that's why I always tell parents, again, it's always very important to get teacher feedback. What are they seeing? Because they're seeing medication in action. By the time they get home, you're not seeing it. So you've got to have that feedback to know, is it working? Are they paying attention? Are you seeing them, fade off at the second half of the day?
Yeah.
Because you're never going to know.
Right. And it's hard, I think as a teacher, it's hard for me to approach a parent and be like, hey, like your child's ADHD is really like affecting their learning, right? Because as teachers, we're not supposed to talk about medical diagnosis with a parent, but
if it's already been diagnosed.
Right. I guess I couldn't just don't bring it up, like, hey, like they're having trouble paying attention, But I think my kids are more open knowing that I have a child who's ADHD and dyslexic. So I feel like I saw a lot of them like relax a little bit, like, oh, like she's not going to judge us.
She gets me.
Yeah.
Yes. So what advice would you give a parent who is kind of back in that beginning stage, whether it be in that pre-K kindergarten year or even a little bit older that's seeing some of those same struggles and in their gut? I'm a huge fan of mom gut.
Absolutely.
Knows there's a problem. What do they do?
I definitely think reach out to your teachers for sure, right? Because there's the proper channels that we can go through. So the first thing, like as a teacher, if we have a suspicion, we're going to try more intervention. So we're going to meet with them more in small group. We're going to chunk assignments. We're going to do all of those accommodations before we actually put them on paper to see if that helps the student. If that doesn't help the student, then they probably need to go to like diagnostic testing, for special education. Now, if we do see those things start helping the student, then that's when you can recommend them for 504. Like, hey, like this student's been on tiers 1, 2, and 3. This is what I've tried. This is what worked. Then the teacher can get them tested through the school and kind of start those processes after we've collected some data. But you can also, I reached out to my doctor the first thing because she knew my kid. And she knew how, smart she is. And I say like smart because she's like gifted and talented too. So she's twice exceptional. And, just like, I know something's wrong with her. Like I'm having trouble with the school, and that's when she's like, reach out to your own. Like if the school's not going to do it, you're going to have to do it like personally. And so that's when I first reached out to you guys and started just reaching out to some of these centers to see what I could get done.
Good. Yeah. It's definitely, the school has a process. You were very lucky and got it done over the summer that is awesome. It's not always that fast or that easy, but.
And I'm pretty sure it's because I was just a district employee, but you have to stay after them. You are going to just have to use any kind of leverage that you can to
and be the squeaky wheel
for your child. Yeah. Make sure that you take care of your child. Not just, I'll give them time. No, like my child is important.
Every day you don't do something, it's just another day wasted.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. What a great story.
Thank you so much for joining us today. In our show notes, you can find information about today's talk, as well as links to resources and other episodes. If you have questions about today's talk, have ideas for future episodes, or just want to stay connected, you can contact us through Diagnostic Learning Services on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So, let's keep talking learning disabilities. This podcast is sponsored by eDiagnostic Learning. You can find more information at www.ediagnosticlearning.com.